confusion.
Brad Baker had the special allure of the handsome stranger in town when his date arrived to pick him up at his place in Virginia Hunt Country on New Year's Eve 1980. Baker, 31, an Indiana native, made his way to the Old Dominion in the 1970s to study agricultural economics at Virginia Tech. He applied his studies in a series of farm management jobs amid the manure-chic estates west of Washington, D.C., where he became known as an early adapting environmentalist and farm-to-table advocate. The charming, mop-topped newcomer moved easily between the manicured owners and their dirty nailed hired hands. He wore big overalls and business suits equally well. Just before Christmas in 1980, Baker landed a dream job as manager of Kinloch Farm, a 2,000-acre estate in the Plains, Virginia. Owned by the Courier family, heirs to the Andrew Mellon fortune.Te, and days later, his New Year's Eve date with a radiologist from the local hospital, recently separated from her husband, was to be a celebration of his new position. The doctor arrived punctually at 9 p.m. at Baker's small home at Kinloch.She. He stepped through the unlocked door when he didn't answer and found him in a crimson puddle, with ghastly shotgun wounds to his head and groin. He was helicoptered to a Washington hospital, but was beyond saving and died the next day. Nothing was missing from the house.But. A door had been broken down, and there were signs of a struggle and additional shotgun blasts. The Fauquier County Sheriff and State Police rounded up 36 Kinloch employees, but no one could imagine that Baker had incited such enmity in his brief time on the job. At the insistence of the owners, he had fired an older farmhand, James Allen, on the day he was killed, but everyone seemed to agree the sacking was overdue. Allen was interviewed, but dismissed as a suspect. The Sheriff, Luther Cox, suggested to the press that the shot to the groin was a significant clue. He all but declared the victim a cattleman Lothario. Based on the evidence we have, it looks like a grudge killing, Cox said. It's the kind of thing a jealous husband might do. Investigators chased several love triangle leads, including the spouse of the radiologist, but each led to a cul-de-sac. Gossip about Baker simmered in Washington long after the investigation was on ice. In 1983, Washingtonian magazine published a bodice-ripping account of Baker's life and death, blood, and money in the Hunt country. The article included new musings by Sheriff Cox about whether Baker was the victim of a professional hit.Oddly, the author called his murder a love story. The investigation was do-a until 1995, when a cold case angel dropped a dime. The tipster, who was going through a nasty divorce, called the sheriff in an adjacent Virginia county and identified Baker's killers as the tipster's brothers-in-law, Ernest and Ronald Cloud. He said the men drove 60 miles from Capon Bridge, West Virginia to Kinloch Farm and shot Baker because the farmhand he had fired that day was the Cloud's stepfather. As prosecutor James Fisher would later say, there was no motivation of a romantic nature or sexual nature whatsoever. Yet it would take most of a decade for Fauquier County authorities to act on the tip after a new sheriff and prosecutor were elected. Ronald Cloud was not difficult to find. In 1988, at age 40, he was locked up for life in West Virginia for the kidnapping and rape of a child. In 2012, Ernest Cloud admitted to a grand jury that his brother shot Baker. A few months later, Ronald Cloud confessed in prison to sheriff's investigator Donald Cahill. He stated that upon arrival at Baker's residence, Cloud exchanged words at the front door with Mr. Baker, and when Mr. Baker ran into a back bedroom, Cloud broke in the front door, entered the residence, and, in an exchange of gunfire, he shot Mr. Baker, Cahill wrote in an affidavit.At a 2013 court hearing. Ernest Cloud testified that he and his brother chugged beers as they barreled toward Kinloch Farm on their quixotic mission to exact revenge on behalf of their stepfather and mother, who faced eviction from the Kinloch estate as a result of the firing. Ernest Cloud said they knocked at Baker's door and asked for help, feigning a car accident. Baker was suspicious and ran to get his shotgun. Ronald Cloud pulled a sawed-off shotgun from under his coat and rushed inside, and the men exchanged shots. Cloud was hit in a prosthetic hand before firing the shots that would kill Baker. It happened so quickly, Ernest Cloud testified. I could not tell who shot first. In September 2014, 34 years after the murder, Ronald Cloud pleaded guilty. "I am sorry that it happened," he said at sentencing. "I didn't go there to kill Brad Baker. He kept trying to shoot me." Baker first was blamed for his own murder by sexual insinuation. Now he was being blamed by the armed intruder who shot him in his own house. Judge Herman Wissenant Jr.